Drive this way in good cell. I am going to brave the den of the devil and go to a Mormon Apologetic YouTube site and do a counter reply to the titles of the videos. Now, this is a high-risk maneuver because once I do this, YouTube is going to flood my homepage with their videos. So the sacrifices I'm doing for you guys. Now, in debating, you're supposed to utilize science techniques. You're supposed to use logic in your arguments. You're not supposed to just lie. Well, there's Kwaku, Seawick Media. See what he's up to. Wait a minute. Is this, or is this a ex-Mormon thing? Because the other guy is doing it. Why are you guys picking on Kwaku? He doesn't know anything. He just graduated from BYU and was promoted to apologist. Here's Apologia Studios. Intense debate with Kwaku. Oh my God, you're giving him too much power. I gave him the keys of translator and he threw them away. I won the debate. LDS scholar, let's see, examining religious claims. Pine Creek. Flackerman. No, that's ex-Mormon. I haven't heard from him forever. Is he even doing stuff? Nine months ago. Dude, what are you up to, man? What happened to you? New name Noah. Daniel Peterson. What a joke. Even the church. Kicked him out. He had to get a job working as an editor at the Deseret News. No, that's ex-Mormon. Aaron Shatovzlach. From Mormon apologist to Christian. Oh, something went wrong there. You do know Mormons are not Christian, right? First Vision. What does he say? Christianity is wrong, and the creeds are an abomination. What's the first creed of Christianity? Yeah, the creation of Jesus as the Christ. Jesus is an abomination. And so the great and abominable church is the one with Jesus. Mormon Discussion, Inc. So that can't be it, because Jesus is angry when you use nicknames. Is there Apologetics, Jude 13? What? Are they gone? Here's Apologia Studios again. Mormon missionary speechless walks away. Is he all by himself? Did he not have his companion? Or is this a fake thing that you thought, oh yeah, he's a missionary, I'll punk him, and he's not with his missionary companion, and so that's why he lost, because he wasn't protected? Oh, there's me. I'm under LDS Apologetics. Yay. Jeremiah Films. Fair. There we go. Foundation for Ancient Interpretation Revisionism. Oh, Faithful Answers, Informed Response. Got it. Okay, here we go. So, 2 weeks ago, Faithfully Informed podcast, Carrie Muhlstein, who got humiliated by those who actually went to a school in Egyptology. I don't know this guy. Who is he? 2 years? PhD? Who? Just the question of plagiarism. Okay, here we go. So, he's trying to say gift and power of God. I'm assuming that's the church's position. The apologists have to side with the church's position, right? They're defending the church. Why then did the ex-Mormon Foundation have a lecture, authorship, who wrote the Book of Mormon? And number 4's clip, they split the lecture into segments to be quicker to upload on YouTube, I guess. I don't know, it's in a playlist also. Number 4. They show that the linguistic patterns of the Book of Mormon correspond with Sidney Rigdon. And so, what about Joseph Smith? You know, apologists respond with, well, he didn't get baptized until December of 1830. Wrong response. See, the science says Sidney Rigdon is the major author. There's Senior's linguistic pattern in the rewritten 116 pages with the addition of 1st and 2nd Nephi to make it 1st and 2nd Nephi with 3rd and 4th Nephi to correspond with 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th Kings, which you know 1st and 2nd Kings as 1st and 2nd Samuel. And so again, that's the science. Apologists will not discuss the science. They distract. Sidney Rigdon didn't join the church until 1830. Explain that. I don't have to. You have to explain why he's the major author. Doesn't matter when he joins the church. He wrote the Book of Mormon. Explain that. And they won't. And so they protect themselves in their bubble world by denying science. Because the science says Sidney Rigdon is the major author. And as Sidney Rigdon is the major author, yes, you will find contemporary works in the Book of Mormon. So, you see their problem. They cannot use science. They cannot use logical argument. They must use fallacy. They must deny science. Okay? Next, the covenant path in the Bible. No, dude. Oh my God. And the Book of Mormon. No. Dude, no. The covenant path is the endowment covenants. Law of obedience, law of the gospel, or sacrifice first, and then gospel, then chastity, then law of consecration. What the hell are you creating? They told us this in conference. Temple covenants, covenant path, keep your covenants. What are you doing? Those are not in the scriptures. Brigham Young created them. And they're all about slavery to the church and sex slavery, women to their husbands, for polygamy originally. Nelson's bringing it back. You cannot change definitions. That's an automatic disqualification. But that's a distraction technique used by apologists. All right, next. When doubts and questions arise, church history and European saints. It's too vague. We need something a little more specific as to what they plan on doing. Emma Smith, The Office of Thy Calling, from 2020 conference. Are you claiming that Emma Smith did actually have priesthood office as well as priesthood? Or are you redefining office? Joseph Smith, the world's greatest guesser. Again, Sidney Rigdon, Joseph Smith Sr. utilized other contemporary books. Sidney Rigdon used a little dab of Parley P. Pratt, because who was the first one to get it and then bring Sidney Rigdon in? So Parley P. Pratt gets the Book of Mormon, reads it, finds stuff that he agrees with, and takes it back, says, "Hey guys, I found this book. It's awesome. It's as if I have written part of it." Yeah. Joseph Smith didn't guess. He didn't compose it. What part of science are you denying still? He didn't use rock in a hat, gift and power of God, created it out of the top of his head, used Captain Kidd books. None of that. Joseph Smith is not even in the picture. He was a babysitter for Martin Harris, because Martin Harris wanted to be involved, not just give out money for the publication when it was finished. You know, the whole New York thing with the transcript. Yeah. He wanted evidence and proof because they wouldn't show him the plates. So Joseph Smith, having worked with him on the farm, where he found his rock in a hat, so he knew about it, was the babysitter. And so is he going to be where the book is being written? Hell no. Sidney Rigdon is way out in Ohio. He's keeping his distance. Now there's other stuff about that, so don't jump to conclusions as people do on both sides. The Book of Mormon and New World DNA. Yeah. The Mormons think that if they can prove that the native Indians have Jewish DNA, that the Book of Mormon is therefore true. No. Even if the native Indians have Jewish DNA, that's not proof that the Book of Mormon is real. Because the science says Sidney Rigdon, Joseph Smith Sr. are the authors, utilizing contemporary records. And so it's therefore not true. It's not a history of the ancient American continent. And so it doesn't matter about DNA. Again, they argue something that is in vain. And Mormons get to stay in their bubble world, and ex-Mormons are deceived because they went down the rabbit hole with them. Pillar of Light, a graphic novel adaptation of Joseph Smith's first vision. I just read Benson's Why We Use the King James Version. You do not compare with other texts, you only compare. So you do not write children's books, no matter how easier it is to read. Do you not listen to your prophets? Do you not obey? Two trees. Are you talking tree of life and tree of knowledge of good and evil? You're going to be wrong. Sorry, you may think you're smart, coming up with something off the top of your head. You'll be wrong, because you are not an anthropologist of the ancient Middle East. Apologetic implications of the truth made flesh. What? You don't make truth flesh. There are no implications. Helen Mar Kimball's polygamy story. Danites, I've had to do extensive research through the Joseph Smith papers. Before the Joseph Smith papers, the church has been hiding it and covering it up and lying and removing information to make it tough to find the truth. But having done the work, finding the Joseph Smith papers, I got confirmation. Joseph Smith was framed and set up. I went over Brigham Young's rewritten Wikipedia page in 2019 after some Mormon published a book about how great Brigham Young was. And in their revisionist history of Brigham Young, they expose his purpose for joining the church. For 2 years, Brigham had been attending church with his wife. She was sick. The church claims to heal. And so they went hoping to have his wife healed. 2 years attending church. The Mormon who wrote the book said they were so faithful because they attended church for 2 years before joining. Back in those days, people joined instantly. They didn't wait around. Brigham Young waited around because his wife was not getting healed. This is a person who's looking beyond the mark. And then she died. She did not get healed. And so Brigham Young thinks the church is true, right? He joins the church now? Because the church is true, they didn't heal his wife. Are you really that naive? Are you really going to gaslight us on this? Brigham Young wanted revenge. And if you want proof, guess what he did to Zina, or whatever pronunciation for her name. Yeah, he watched. Watched what, Travis? She washed and anointed women for their blessings. She washed and anointed women for their blessings, as Brigham Young watched. Do I need to explain this more? Because the church in the initiatories with washings and anointings no longer do the original practices. Having gone through for the first time in 1989 for my mission, I know of the various changes since then. such that if you have gone for the first time recently and think that's the way it's always been, you do not understand. And so Heber C. Kimball, in the family records, he had married and conceived kids with a second wife in 1829. He didn't join until he joined with Brigham Young. So what was his reasoning for joining the church? For that, you go to his Wikipedia page under Masonry. There are some differences with the journal entry and what the journal entry is turned into on the Wikipedia page. They are not the same. But nonetheless, you get the point of his reasoning for joining and why he went and recruited Brigham Young, who wanted revenge. He says that he became a master mason in 1 year. And in fact, as he was born in 1801, and so in 1823, he's now 22 years old. 1 year as an adult. Because remember, it was that amendment that changed the date of an adult from 21 to 18. And it's somewhat recently. It was 21 back then. And so he becomes a master mason at 22 years old. 1 year as an adult, huh? But then, even if that were to be true, which it would have been impossible to be true, because he's referring to Joseph Smith doing it in 1842. But nonetheless, he reveals what he's up to. He says that the next year he goes to Canandaigua Lodge with a petition to be the number 7 ranking of Royal Ark in the York Rites. That's different than Scottish Rites with 33-degree masonry. You need to know the difference. Without going into further detail, as I've done in other videos, he says his petition was approved. That would have been by the Master Mason at that lodge. Because Master Masons are in charge of the lodges. You can have people above that, but don't impose current situation pre-1826. Because what happened in 1826 changed Freemasonry forever. And Heber says, I don't have the records because they were destroyed in that movement in 1826. And so I guess we'll never know who that Master Mason was who approved them. Yep, we do know the records were not destroyed, and he's in the list of famous Freemasons. Yet Wikipedia will not put the correct link. They always say need better source or source not listed or whatever crap. It's known. Joseph Smith Sr. He knew. about the Book of Mormon. That is why they had to have Sidney Rigdon distanced away from the Smiths. That's why Joseph Smith had to be the babysitter. But if you're not going to do your research, if you're just going to trust the Danites, because yes, Danites. Now yes, these women also wrote journal entries, but they have to kind of agree with the Danites. They're kind of kidnapped. They're being held hostage. Their lives depend on agreeing with whatever the Danites want them to do. If you've never been kidnapped before, I refer you to Elizabeth Smart. The summer of 1842, huh? Okay. So not the spring of 1842. But we're at 26 minutes. That gives you a good sampling. You got to use science. You got to use logic. You can't let your emotions get away with you when you see polygamy and women claiming that Joseph was their sex slave owner. Because that's the trap. Because if you're committing a crime and you're doing it in secret because you don't want the law to know and arrest you, and you're not the leader of the church, how do you get other members to agree to have sex with you? You gotta lie. And so, Orange White, the son of Lyman White, tells us exactly how this was done by the Danites in secret. He goes over to visit Brother Higby. He assumes he only has one wife. He goes into the house. He sees two other women. Brother Higby says, Joseph Smith approves of this. Shh, don't tell. And Lyman White writes in his journal that he believes it. That Joseph Smith is therefore a polygamist because he approved it. Brother Higby said so. Why would he lie? Don't be so gullible. But Joseph Smith has been framed. A majority of the female ex-Mormons have left because the Church of Danites accuses Joseph Smith of being the polygamist. And so you're all upset with Joseph, but guess what? He was innocent. Who have you now let get away with polygamy? The Danites. Because if Joseph approved it all, they're not to blame. They were just following orders. It was Brigham Young. He and Heber were marrying other wives and marrying other people to other wives in the summer of 1842. Brigham Young doesn't have authority to do that. Only Joseph Smith. What's Brigham Young doing? He's a mission president. His focus is missionary work, handing out the Book of Mormon. His licensing shows this. Joseph Smith tells him and others of the 12 and of the 70, but specifically the 12, Once you establish a church, you're out. Don't come back. Because the leadership in that church are now in control. So what is Brigham Young doing with sealings that he does not have authority to do? Think, people. Think. Don't just trust someone because you want to believe somebody's telling you the truth to confirm your biased opinions. Don't keep looking around for someone who will give you the answer you want so that you can validate each other. Don't fall for that trap.